Blazers got Donovan Clingan, and he is the subject of, well, he's one of the subjects of today's poll question, okay?
We have multiple subjects.
Yeah, we have two, because the Blazers got two new dudes.
That's true.
Both white guys. The poll question is on X at 1080 The Fan. It is brought to you by AAA Heating and Cooling, a family business helping families for over 60 years. AAAIAQ.com. Yesterday's question, how much do you trust NBA draft analysis? 54% said a little. 25% said never. And 21% said, I sort of have to, don't I?
I think I would go with that. You kind of have to.
You kind of, yeah. I mean, it's like,
I don't know. I mean, when we made the the Blazers front office and me, they consulted me on this.
Yeah, they call you.
Yeah, look, I know that there are people out there that are really dialed in. My first thing was I texted Danny. I was like, hey, who the hell is this? But when a move gets made for a 23-year-old forward for the Washington Wizards, come on, how many Blazer fans?
Man.
Being honest, 80, 90% all said the same thing. Who the hell is this guy?
Come on.
Stephen A. Smith was on the NBA coverage, and when the Knicks drafted the French guy late in the first round, he was like, who the hell is this? I've never heard of him.
Well, that's what I think people need to know is that when a move like that happens, you expect even the best experts to have something for you.
Yeah.
And they don't.
No.
Because not even they know who this guy is.
So
anyway,
when it comes to the analysis, I try to do groupthink when it comes to these sorts of things to just see what the general narrative is. And because I'm not, and like even with Donovan Clingan,
what?
I watched UConn play probably 2.5 to 3 times this year, non-tournament, and I didn't even know that he had foot problems. Did you?
He has foot problems?
He had a couple foot injuries.
Well, why did they take his ass?
Because I guess they were fairly minor. They were independent of each other. And once he got healthy, then he took off.
He's freaking Greg Oden.
I didn't know. See, that's my point. Like, I had no idea. I hadn't heard one time about any sort of foot issue. And it turns out he had a couple foot injuries and none of them were serious. I saw him play 2 or 3 times during the regular season, bits and pieces, and then I watched him in the tournament. How the hell am I making any sort of definitive statement based on that? So you kind of go through, and the way I view it is there were a ton of people saying that guy was in consideration for a top 3 pick in the NBA draft, and then he wasn't going to be there at 7, and that Portland really wanted him, and he was their target all along. So the fact that you didn't have to move up to get him, the fact that he was there, and it was who you wanted all along, I don't know, then to me, whether or not he pans out, he doesn't seem like the sort of guy, in my mind, that makes sense in today's NBA. But again, I'm not a GM. I'm not building a roster. So if that's who Portland identified and that's who they got, then to me, that's successful. Now, 3 years from now, we may look back on this and be like, what a bunch of dumbasses. Why were they trying to get a heavy-footed 7-foot guy with potentially foot problems, right? Like, there's no way to know. Whereas at least in the NFL, that is a sport that I'm way more comfortable with. It's a sport that I watch way more of. I feel like I can make a little stronger of, hey, this is what I think on that. But when it comes to the NBA draft, man, I'm trusting the analysis of people that do this for a living. But I try to get as many opinions on guys as I can, and you can try to form a little puzzle based on that.
The analysis from people that do it for a living, that's the problem, is they don't know. No one knows. Like I said, Seth Greenberg knows a lot about basketball.
Yeah.
And he said Mo Bamba was a hybrid of Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid. So no one knows.
Well, and this is what I will tell you is I don't care what the GM says when it comes to the post interview. Like, I listened to a little bit.
Do we have some Joe Cronin audio today?
Sure we do.
We do have Joe Cronin audio.
He talked for about 13 minutes. I do think there was one thing he said, because I listened to that last night when I was driving home. I caught the little press conference. It wasn't very long. And it wasn't that late. There was one piece in there that I was like, okay, I'll take that. But everybody after the press conference, again, I'm not trying to throw any shade at anyone and say that, that this is a pile of horse nears or whatever, but whatever Joe Cronin says, realize this is the same guy that told us that they were doing everything they could to build around Dame, that they were pushing all their cards in the middle, said that Dame and Scoot could play together, said that Scoot was the rare guy that was not going to have any sort of hiccups coming into the NBA and was going to hit the ground running. Don't even get me started on the Neil O'Shea crap that we heard over the years, from Luke Babbitt to Zach Collins and the rest of them. So this is like when in free agency or in the NFL draft or any other, where there's never been someone that's come out and been like, I really hated our draft class. Now these guys suck, and this isn't what I wanted. So I take all of that stuff and kind of roll my eyes at it.
I would actually go the opposite of that. I would say that over time, no one's been more vocal about not listening to a franchise than me.
Yes.
Because that was the whole Neil O'Shea thing. He was, and a lot of franchises do this, but he was especially skilled at this, is the franchises, like I've always said, that the last entity you should listen to if you want to get the truth is the franchise.
Yeah.
Because they spit their truth,
100%,
not the truth. And that was O'Shea to a T. They spin and sometimes even flat out lie because they have an interest in getting you on board with what they are saying so they can try to spin and fool you. Okay. But when it comes to the draft, I would say that's the one time I want to hear what the GM says, because I do want to view what they were thinking through their lens.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's right, but the thing about it is there is no truth yet.
No.
So when we're looking
narratives.
when we're looking for the truth, you don't want to go to the franchise. But when there's no truth, I do get something out of listening to at least what they were thinking and how they are going about building out the roster or picking players or making trades. So I actually do want to hear them right after the draft because I just want to hear what they say about that. Now, that's not to say you should always listen to the franchise. Again, be very careful about that. But in this instance, that's the one time I kind of want to hear Joe Cronin clips, and maybe we'll play them.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that.
Yeah.
You guys can hear from Joe Cronin.
There is a little piece in there, and when he said it, and it sounds like everyone else that was in the room, like people were talking about it a bunch today, and I don't know how much of it, was just slip of the tongue. I thought it was fairly telling that Cronin seemed to lay out.
Do you want to hear that soundbite?
Yeah, this is the soundbite.
I thought this was, everyone thought this was really interesting, who he mentioned and who he didn't.
Yeah.
We've got to continue to build this talent base, and we're committed to Scoot and Shaden being a massive part of what we're doing. And how do we find ways to give them the support they need and make them better and maximize their development? So it's continually seeking players that we can add to this roster that we can grow with and build together with.
So, I mean...
Yeah, so no mention of Ayton, no mention of Simons.
No. And we've often... And this is kind of what we've thought all along, but I did think it was telling it, and someone may ask him about that, and he'll do the Neil, move on. It's not breaking news. I can't say everybody.
Guys,
but
move on.
I do think that in these moments when you're answering questions, a lot of times you're just talking off the cuff, and... you throw out there what is the truth. Like you said, I think these press conferences, there probably is a little something more there than there is normally. And I found it telling that he talked about putting pieces around Shaden and Scoot. And then you add a young 7'2" center in that. And I think you're starting to see the path of a year from now, 6 months now, 2 years from now. What does this team look like? I think it looks much different. But the thing that I feel like we know is that those three pieces, Clingan, Scoot, and Shaden.
I'm going to go to that lake.
And of course, now making the move for old Danny there. This seems to be those four guys, I would assume, are the core moving forward.